We're gonna get straight into signs of the last day.
Yeah.
Minor signs. This looks
Eerie.
yeah. But hey, it is what it is. This is the future, apparently.
For real?
Tell me, hey, we'll see.
Yo, is there we put this on like 125
125
speed?
Oh, okay. Oh, come on.
There we go.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
All right, lovely.
Yeah, before we continue, make sure you like and subscribe. Pull up to the live streams every Tuesday, every Thursday.
Signs of the last day. Things that the Prophet Muhammad said that would happen before the end of time. And of course, the first thing the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, the first thing that he said would be the first of the signs of the last day is his death. And the last day is soon upon us. And that's what the Prophet said then 1,400 years ago. How close must it be now? Let's look at some of the things the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said in various narrations. First of all, the Prophet Muhammad mentioned that amongst the signs of the last day is that you would see the barefooted Bedouins compete with each other in building tall buildings. This is remarkable, because I invite anybody to look and go and visit Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. These are places where 60 years ago, I remember when I was in Kenya and they were complaining how there was no more money coming from Saudi Arabia after 9/11 and so on and so forth. And they were saying, well, you know, 60 years ago, we used to send money to Saudi Arabia to help the orphans and the madrasas there. Now you will find the people who only 60 years ago were barefooted Bedouins competing with each other in who can build the tallest building in the world. In fact, it said there's going to be 6 of the tallest buildings in the world in Dubai in the years to come. This is something the Prophet Muhammad was predicting 1,400 years ago. It is truly a sign of the last days. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ also mentioned that the mosques would become like palaces. And this is the case even though the Prophet ﷺ ordered simplicity in the houses of Allah. The fact is that they've become more and more fantastic, and more money is being spent on these mosques with domes and floors and golden domes and floors and everything to match, with so much lavish chandeliers and carpets like
That's
palaces,
huge.
as the Prophet ﷺ said would happen. Also, the Prophet mentioned that trustworthiness would disappear, so much so that a person would be able to say, I know a trustworthy person in such and such town. I ask you yourself if maybe that is not the case today. Also, the Prophet mentioned that there will be an increase in killing. The Prophet called it harj, to the extent that the one who is being killed and the one who is killing, they don't even know. The one who's being killed doesn't know why he's being killed. The one who's killing doesn't know why he's doing the killing. I think this is describing the condition of some cities today, where kids are shooting people. The person has no idea why he was shot. In fact, people are being shot merely just to prove themselves or for any type of madness that you can imagine. Not even to mention the massacres of so many people that is taking place due to terrorism, whether it is the terrorism of countries or the terrorism of organizations or individuals. We shouldn't really make a difference. It's all terror. When women and children and innocents get killed, it's terror by the hands of whoever it is. People do not know why they're killing or why they're being killed, to it is such an extent that it is unimaginable, just as the Prophet Muhammad predicted 1,400 years ago. Also, the Prophet mentioned that there would be the increase in the use of riba, which means usury, interest, credit cards, mortgages, things like that. In fact, to the extent that no one would be able to escape the dust of it. Everybody will be affected by it. And this is without doubt the truth of the world economy today. The whole world economy is affected and controlled by banks and the use of interest money. Even though in Islam it is totally prohibited. Even though in Christianity, until...
What's prohibited? Because
Like
I'm like,
The use of like credit and things of that nature.
Oh, okay. Because they're saying credit card. Okay, so stuff that isn't like
You don't have
tangible.
Yeah, I suppose. Right?
Oh, okay. Because I was in my head. I was like, isn't that inevitable? Like with more like people like money being used. That's what I thought they meant. But
till the 16th, 17th century, riba was forbidden in Christendom as well. But yet today, it is something that controls the world economy to the extent that no one can escape it, just as the Prophet Muhammad predicted 1,400 years ago. The Prophet also said that there will be an increase in literacy. In fact, so many people will be able to read and write, but actually knowledge will decrease. Isn't that a type of paradox? More people will read, and what do we end up reading? Most of us, we read rubbish. We read rubbish stuff. But we can read, but knowledge, especially knowledge of the religion, despite the fact that more people can read, ignorance has become prevalent. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, that religious knowledge would decrease, not by the books disappearing, not by
interest,
knowledge being taken from the minds of the people. No, the knowledge in the sense of the books will be there, but the scholars, so that only ignorant people will remain. And people will ask them for religious verdicts, and they will give it, even though they are ignorant, and they will misguide themselves and misguide others. Anyone acquainted with the Muslim world today will be familiar with this. And the Prophet mentioned the speakers will be many and the scholars will be few. And this is what we can find. Exactly, there are many speakers, many thinkers, many intellectuals, many people, alhamdulillah, giving da'wah. Maybe not enough people, but the scholars, they are so few. And this is a type of sign of the last day, that the scholars will be taken away, and this is exactly what we find happening. Also, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that there will be such an increase in musical instruments, and Muslims will make it lawful even though it is forbidden. The use of musical instruments, it has been forbidden by the Prophet. Some Muslims will make it lawful.
Why?
Yeah,
There are many people who are saying it's allowed, even though it is very clearly mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, the most authentic collection of hadith. And this is mentioned here. This hadith where the Prophet predicted that the people will make it lawful even though the Prophet made it unlawful, and it's come true. Just as the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said. Also, he mentioned there will be an increase in sexual promiscuity. Even though Islam is a religion that teaches chastity, that a man and a woman should confine themselves to marriage, the Prophet said there will be an increase in sexual promiscuity. And I don't think anyone can deny that that is the state of the world today, with highly sexualized images, and even traditional societies that normally had a good traditional moral values. For example, like India. Even in India, for example, promiscuity is becoming more and more common, hardly than it ever was before. Even in Muslim countries, where the whole idea of sexual promiscuity is so against the teachings of Islam, it is unfortunately becoming more and more common. And the Prophet Muhammad said that because of this, diseases would appear that people had never heard of before. Isn't that the case? AIDS, for example, diseases that people had never heard of before will arise due to sexual promiscuity. And this has taken place just as the Prophet Muhammad predicted, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mentioned that women will be naked although they are dressed. The dress of some women today, which in all but means is nakedness. With the clothes that are so tight, they describe every shape of the body, which this technology did not exist to make those type of clothes in the time of the Prophet. Yet the Prophet Muhammad is describing how this nakedness amongst the women will become prevalent. And also the Prophet mentioned that there will be shouting in the mosques, something that is prohibited in Islam, and it's something that I have witnessed myself. And also the Prophet said the worst and the most ignorant people will become the leaders. And really, I have to say, if we look at some of the world leaders today, even of some of the superpowers, it seems as if what the Prophet said about the worst and most ignorant people becoming leaders seems to have taken place. Exactly what the Prophet Muhammad said.
Right before.
Also, he mentioned that a man will obey his wife and disobey his mother, something really contrary to the teachings of Islam. He will rather listen to his friends than listen to his father. And this is something that we find happening in the Muslim world, even though this is so against the teachings of Islam. Men will wear gold and silk, and they will make it lawful, even though the Prophet has made it unlawful. People will abandon the religion of Islam for a small worldly gain. And keeping on to the religion will be like holding two hot coals. I'm mentioning all of these things, and there are many, many more things that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentioned. But these are some of the small signs concerning the events that will take place before the last day. And as we can see, these things that I have gone through, almost without exception, they have come true in a way that is so clear and so obvious and so apparent.
That was interesting.
Nah, this is something that, like, they would say this in church all the time. It was like, you're coming to the last days. And, I mean, I think that, I suppose the last days mean... Let me not say the last days mean. Let me not say that. But it's, I think, like, the last days, according to the Bible, are akin to the world becoming more, like, immoral, or rather amoral at that. Because I don't necessarily, I mean, granted, this is, I'm born in today, so maybe a little bit different, but I don't necessarily think everything is bad, but I have a kind of like a if you look judge it from like the Bible sense, I have a corrupted sense of morality.
Mm-hmm. Compared to what the Bible.
I'm guessing due to the similarities, similar to what the Quran, even what the Torah would say. The distancing of like, I guess, morality according to the book is akin to the last day.
But they're not saying literally the last day.
Then like the last days
like,
is what I've heard.
Like the destruction of the planet.
Yeah, like what? Like, cause what is that?
The rapture.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
do they have a rapture in there?
See, that's a great question. I don't know, but that was like, I guess, according to Christianity.
Yeah, because this kind of reminds me of like how what my grandpa would say, stuff like that, because he's very, very, very Christian. I think like evangelical or whatever.
Yeah, that's a denomination.
And yeah, according to like the way things are today, it's like, oh yeah, it's like it's about it's
about to go down soon.
Like it's about to happen, this and that. And if you don't believe, then you're gonna be left behind and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, like these things are happening. This is like the truth. But what does that have to do with it being the last days? You know what I'm saying?
Nah, but you know what though? The one thing I always will have to say that I give credence to is like the way that they predicted it. It's almost, I'm not gonna say to a T, but it's like for motherfuckers. I mean, we talking about religious figures. Let me not. For people who live in a completely different millennium.
Yeah.
They're kind of.
Didn't you say the same about philosophers who are predicting other stuff too?
Like what?
Yeah.
Do you have something in mind? Because I can't think off the top, but
like from the philosophers back then, or like people.
Yeah. Back then, like
I can't, but I could say like, I mean, I feel like even if you're in a time period and you're seeing the progression of things, i.e. technology, you could kind of predict where things are going based on the track record. Like, for example, like, we know that Elon Musk is building these wicked, like, crazy robots, right? We all know what that's going to lead to. We can kind of predict that.
We'll probably see that in our lifetime. We're talking about people who are millenniums.
Yeah, but also technology is progressing faster than ever now.
But we're talking, you got to understand, we're talking about, I'm not talking about what I'll see in 500 years. I don't know what the fuck is going to happen in 500 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with like what you said, we have an idea of what's going to happen based off of, I guess, history and then what we know. These are people from a
completely different
not
time,
century,
an era,
mm-hmm.
completely different era,
like several eras,
mm-hmm.
like decades upon centuries upon millennia, predicting things. I have to admit, there's some correlation between what it is that they're saying. Now, the disconnect in my brain happens is like, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Because they made these predictions, but these predictions come from religion. Religion gives people a guide in a sense, but religion has its biases and it has its discriminations.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always going to be people who oppose it.
Is it a direct opposition?
Right.
That's happening, or is that what they predicted? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can never really know for sure.
You can't know, but one could argue that if it's written that doing these type of things is bad, they're gonna be people who do those bad things anyways.
Right, but I mean, I guess the thing is for like a society to kind of come to a consensus to that, it's kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say at least.
I mean, she's saying basically after the minor signs, major signs will follow. Which is what? What are the major signs?
Yes, that's a good question.
Antichrist will appear, Jesus will come back. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
The very last is the fire that will start from Yemen. It will make everyone go to a certain place, which will be the place of resurrection. We're talking about a little man who lived 1,400 years ago.
Indeed. I don't know. Literacy. I don't know what literacy has to do with accuracy. You know what I'm saying? Like, being able to read, and there's no like direct correlation between intelligence and illiteracy. You know what I mean? Generally, we look at people who can't read as like maybe less intelligent, but I mean,
and even in the video, they were saying that people can read and write. The majority of the world can read and write, but they don't retain knowledge. So I mean, there really is no.
We read rubbish.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
there really is no correlation at that point. You know, as per the video, if that's
right.
What
is
referring
I mean, and another thing is too, like the one thing that I always have to keep in consideration is that anything that we do get as far as religion is concerned. Like this whole video is obviously based off of religious text, but it's being broken down by an individual to us.
Yeah.
Right.
So in his mind, you know what I mean, or in my mind, like he never said this in explicitly.
Yeah, it was all like vague.
It was like it's an interpretation, and this is a modern man's interpretation of text from, you know what I mean, whatever. So he could be applying it directly to things in the current sense that may not have actually been said outright. So
just kind of like interpretations of what was written in the books and kind of
applying it to here. So I mean, there's a lot to consider, but I mean, that's one thing I will say. Like I've like based off of like religion, they do say that like I guess the morality breaking down and other little factors too, because I haven't been to church in quite some time. Sorry, you know what I'm saying. So there are quite a few things that they've made mention of to be aware of during the last days. Like I remember one of them was like at some point in time, all of the world's currency are going to be merged into one. That was one thing that they said is a sign of the last times. And then when I heard that, I kind of thought of crypto.
That's what I was just thinking, like Bitcoin and shit.
Yeah. And it's like, it's hard to exactly say because there's so many different cryptos.
Yeah.
But I mean, give or take, let's just say another 50 years. And in theory, everybody's trying to race to get the one that's going to be the one. So
but
that
also,
might happen.
You could also look at the fact that now it's easier to exchange that currency than ever. You could change it from one currency to another. But it's all within the not the same blockchain, but within
you can
like
do it
the
from
top.
Your phone.
You could do it from your phone, and wherever you are, you know what I'm saying. Just exchange it from one to the other.
Right.
It's almost like you kind of have all of them at the same time, and it's just like you kind of determine which one, in which way you want to present it to the person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
at whatever given time.
It's getting closer to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I go for in the back of my mind, I be thinking about this shit. Like, I guess the religious. If you grew up religious, I don't care how far you may stray to a certain degree, the religious teachings that you were taught as a child are going to remain dormant in your brain at some point. You know what I'm saying? I don't live my life according to the Bible, but there's certain things that I kind of stick with just because I grew up that way. Yeah.
What's the river Euphoria?
I don't know.
The River Euphoria. I know Euphoria, the show.
Yeah, that's what I was like. What?
Yeah.
Riverdale. It's
but the Riverdale Euphoria is crazy.
Bro, that's the first thing that
what does gold being there have to do with anything? Drying up, I mean, that could be climate change.
From what I understand, yeah.
I mean,
that's like a sign of
that. That's what I'm saying. It could like
climate change is a sign of the end. I mean,
but
that could be the sign of
it's a direct
like,
link.
That could be, but I don't. I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm saying there's a difference between the end of like of Earth due to like industrialism and due to religious.
But I think that plays a part because the creation, like based off of what they said, the creation of tall buildings. Like I don't think that. I mean, just based off of my understanding, I don't think the Earth would necessarily end on its own accord. It'll just be like, oh yeah, fucking, you know what I'm saying? Oh well, it's about that time. It's time for Earth to end. It's like we're creating shit that's, I feel like it's gonna be as a result of us.
Yeah,
I mean, you global warming is us.
For definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, wouldn't that be a sign in a sense?
Yeah.
I'm saying like us and overpopulation. I don't think is directly linked to religion. I think that's just people.
I mean, that has nothing to do with overpopulation, though. That has to do with industrialism.
Well, that's what. But industrialism, I think, also has to do with. I mean, all of it plays. I mean, it's not
plays a part.
Yeah,
but also, if you kind of look at the video, the way that he's explaining it, he never really said that Prophet Muhammad ever related any of these to the Islamic Muslim culture, I should say. Like, he didn't say, oh, because of Islam, these buildings are gonna be, you know, built, and then the day is gonna come where it ends. He never really said, like, you know, it doesn't really relate to the religion itself. He just kind of is saying that, from what I understand, this is a sign that we've kind of we fucked up, essentially.
Right? Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, we'll never, like, I guess I'm not gonna. I guess we won't really know until.
Yeah.
If it is the truth, we'll know when it's probably
people will fight and die.
You know,
get into that goal. But that's the question though. Like, in this case, in this scenario, what is the last days looking like? Because, like you said, what's the rapture or whatever? What is that? Is that like Jesus Christ coming down or something like that?
I don't know if it's exactly Jesus Christ, but pretty much God coming back for all those who were believers.
Exactly. So and then those who aren't or don't go to church and this and that are just going to be left.
Left to deal with.
And those signs in that Christian sense aren't there like stuff like the 7? There's some 7 things.
Oh, like happen, yeah, like there's gonna be floods. Yeah, it's been floods.
Wasn't there supposed to be like stuff falling from the sky? Like
I did like frogs.
Frogs, right?
Yeah. No, I forgot what. There's a term for that, but I do not remember what it's called. But you're on, like the 7 gates of hell. Not 7. Not 7 deadly sin. I don't know if it's 7, but it's like.
I think it is 7 though.
I don't know exactly.
You know what I'm talking about?
Nah,
See, that's the thing. I was never like religious, but I've heard about this through like
that's
my.
That's crazy
grandpa.
that you remember. Cause I that shit completely escaped my mind.
No, it's because like how you said, like in the back of your head, it's always in the back of your mind. It's like these type of things were always like my grandpa would always say things like, oh, like. It's like, these days are coming and like things are gonna happen. I'm like, yo, this is mad depressing. Like I don't want to hear that.
No, like they call it like rolling thunder. I remember like you know the Bible makes everything sound like so grandiose. It's like, yo, this shit crazy. I'm scared.
Like we're not bad people. Like at least the 3 of us. You know, I don't think.
Right, and
you know
what I'm saying. And they're saying that
we try our best to do good for other people and do good for the world. And I feel like
it's tough. It's tough because, you know, I mean, I think that, let's just say theoretically speaking, right? I don't know, like, I can't say for sure if anything exists because I'm you know what I mean, I'm only a guy, but I do believe in there being a higher power. Let's say, right, that according to the Bible, if you're a good person, that's not enough. But in my mind, I'm like, if God created us, loves us, and wants the best for us, if we decide to live our lives in a way that's beneficial, not only to in a self-serving manner, but to benefit others, to assist others, to help people, do you think that he'd take somebody who's a career shitty person who just decided, oh yeah, I'm gonna believe over and leave everybody else to be, you know what I mean, damned to whatever eternal fate? I don't know, because
I mean, even if you look at, bro, like the son of Sam, like he believed that he was talking to Jesus and God through that dog, and ended up murdering like 15 people in Brooklyn and Queens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was wilding. I don't know.
But he believed. But he believed.
I mean, I don't know. That I can't make as much of a case for him, because I'm like, you're doing harm to people. I don't think.
But that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make.
What is
that, like, where's the precedence? You know what I'm saying? Like, what weighs more? You know what I'm saying?
What, like believing or doing good?
Or doing good. You know
I think in order for belief to be true, you have to do both. In theory,
I don't necessarily agree with that.
No?
To be honest with you.
Why not?
Because what if they genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing?
I mean, that's a good question. I definitely don't have.
But you see what I'm saying, right? I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just, you know, this is one of those times where it's like, you know, I'm gonna stand on what I believe, and I think
as you should.
You know,
we're talking like on shit that we don't know, so nobody could be there's no authority here.
I just think, like, if someone genuinely believes that what they're doing is right, but it inadvertently ends up hurting people, or maybe they were deliberately attempting to hurt other people, then you would think, you know, what weighs more in terms of the higher power's precedence. You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, if you believe that let's just say you really genuinely believe that you're in tune with a higher power, what higher power would encourage you to harm?
There are some that I'm not gonna say and name any religions, but there are certain religions that I'm not gonna say it on the video, where if you, let's say, lean a certain way in terms of who you're attracted to, you are to get stoned to death.
So pretty much all of the Abrahamic religions, essentially. Yes. I mean,
that's pretty fucked up.
Is that? But keep in consideration, right? Was that sanctioned by God, or did God say that it was wrong? I don't think God told anybody to stone people. People took it upon themselves the way that people took it upon themselves as like to spread the message of Christianity.
Yes. I see what you're saying, but see, that's what I'm saying. They genuinely believe in what they believe in, and they believe they're spreading that message, right? But they're still hurting people that don't need to be hurt, because they're not hurting anybody.
Right.
They're minding their own business, doing what they're doing, and these people are getting hurt, right? And these people who are hurting these people believe that they're doing the right thing because they think they're spreading the message. They're spreading the message, right? But as opposed to someone who, who says, all right, this person is doing this, but are they good people? I bet. Keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying?
At least in the Bible, though, what's funny as you mentioned that is that I forgot who it was in the Bible and exactly the story is. And they were going to stone him. And Jesus, granted, everybody doesn't believe in Jesus. But it's like one of the most famous quotes.
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That he is who without sin cast the first stone.
Mm-hmm.
Who's perfect? Nobody. According to the Old Testament, I don't want to say them, what was wilding, but them, what was wilding. They was wilding in the Old Testament. The shit that people did in the Old Testament was foul. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, even to a certain extent, that kind of leads me to like I have to take everything with a grain of salt, because people were moving different in a different time just within the canonical religion, the time period of when the book was written. So you mean to tell me, like just to put it in layman's terms, religion had a DLC and everything changed? It's like, I don't. Yeah. That's why I can't. It's hard.
I guess that's what you. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's hard for me to justify that I should be listening.
There's patch notes, bro, because it keeps getting
rewritten and reinterpreted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To I don't know, to suit whoever's. You know what I mean? We don't know. Like, at least I can't speak for anything else, but Christianity. Christianity has been revamped so many times. So I think that the best that I could do is extrapolate, as a friend of ours would say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. As a friend?
Yeah.
There is no compulsion to religion in Islam, by the way.
Compulsion to religion?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I feel like I have an idea of what she's trying to say, but I feel like I don't have enough brain power to kind of.
To be honest, there will be non-Muslims.
There is no compulsion to religion in Islam, by the way. So, like, as in, like, you're not forced to conform to the religion. Like, that's kind of how I'm interpreting it, but I feel like that's wrong, and I feel like that's not what she's trying to say.
I mean, I get, because one thing that I did hear in church is that religion in let's just say the Bible and religion aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
or going to church in religion, or going to church in Christianity isn't necessary. It's like religion is one thing, but faith is different from religion. Religion is generally associated with, like church, worship, and all the other stuff. But a faith, you don't necessarily have to adhere to religion, because according to like the definition of a religion is just like a up version of routine, in a sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Religion?
Yeah, because I do this religiously, we say.
Okay.
It's not it doesn't always have to be associated with it. That's why I say it's like maybe like a souped up version of routine. But faith is different. You can have faith, but maybe without being religious in it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
I mean, you could also argue the fact though that
Jill.
Yo, what's good, Nami?
Jill.
You could also argue the fact though that I mean, I agree with you, and I agree with what you're saying, but you know, at the end of the day, if you're a good person, then at the very least, you're religiously doing good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
You know?
I agree. That's what I think. Like, you know, we've been taught, like, we were taught in church that, you say, you know, people say, yeah, I'm a good person, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but if you're not saved, that's not enough. And I can't buy that. You know what I'm saying? I can't buy that. Like when my son Fabi said, I was thinking and I was reflecting. I got a question for the Reverend. If you kill a killer, do you go to heaven?
Bars.
Like that joint was kind of profound, because I'm like, yo, this killers and there's this and there's that go to heaven according to the Bible. Even in the Bible, there's like people who did wrong, who got saved and went to heaven. I'm like, all right. Yep. Like, I guess you can't necessarily.
What was his name? Abraham, I think.
What's Abraham? I know in particular Saul. I know Saul became Paul after he got saved. He became Paul the Apostle. Yes. Like, you could do wrong.
My boy
there's been a few.
Came in a bicycle, bro.
Oh, word, that's wicked.
It's here though.
Now there's been quite a few people who's you know what I'm saying, who's like done wrong in the Bible and kind of got repented or whatever the case is. Like, I think intention plays a big part, but it has to be genuine, I would imagine. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be,
of course,
you can't like claim the faith. Like, if you go to church, you claim the faith, but you don't do shit. You don't put in any. You don't put it into actual practice. You don't actually look out to help people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think, or even if you exhibit like signs of just, I don't know, like the seven. We all sin, so I can't even say if you exhibit like signs like the 7 deadly sins, because we all sin in a sense. But like, if you don't actually put any work behind the show that you put on, then I don't know. Are you just as likely? Do you earn your spot in heaven next to the person who may not have gone to church but was out here donating time, donating money, you know what I'm saying, making efforts to help people, even if it wasn't in the name of religion, it was just in the name of helping people, you know what I'm saying, because we're communal.
That's a good question.
I feel like that's almost like, in my opinion, I feel like what you just said to me, I hate to say it, but it's just more honorable, because now it comes just from the heart and the good nature of your character, rather than because you were raised on that or told, you know what I'm saying?
Right. That it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Yeah, because you feel that it's the right thing to do.
Or because you do this and then this good will come to you.
Because you want something.
Because I feel like this, like, you know, like, I think they said, like, you know, one thing that they stopped teaching in Christianity was like the fear of God. The fear of God, it was something that, like, was, I guess, a big motivating factor for people to live according to the Bible, because fear, if you don't, you're condemned to eternal damnation. Now, I mean, with that in the back of your mind, I'm not saying everything you do is invalid, because, I mean, who the fuck am I to say that? But at the same time, it's like, let's say this eternal damnation wasn't the imminent threat at the back of your mind in every, you know what I mean, action that you do. Would you still be doing that?
Yeah.
You're not necessarily doing it because it's the right thing. You're doing it because you don't want to go to hell.
Yeah.
Right.
I think just there's no substance at that point. Yeah. It's selfish.
I think so too, to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I think basically we can't force anyone to become Muslims. Yeah. No, I agree.
Oh, compulsion.
Okay. Yeah. I agree. Watching Twisted Braids. Guess y'all talking about religion. Yeah. You know.
Nice debate. Shout out to Shama ALM.
Shama ALM.
Yeah, this was an interesting video.
Yeah,
shout out to Yas for recommending this.
Yeah. Got the boys thinking.
Y'all know we always, you know what I'm saying, like to keep an open mind about things, you know what I'm saying? While we feel what we feel, you know what I'm saying? And much like anybody's allowed to feel what they feel, you know, this is always an interesting watch, and we always like to keep an open mind, you know what I'm saying? And it's a great discussion as always.
Yeah.
Much love to Yaz for the donation. Shout out.
Word. If you watched all this on the YouTube upload, subscribe, pull up to the live streams every Tuesday and Thursday.
Word, drop a like, drop a comment, all that.
Yo, that bubble tea is here though.
All right, let me go and get that.
All right.